Surgeon-guided, technology-driven, robotic arm-assisted surgical technology for hip and knee replacements. Available at Kansas Spine and Specialty Hospital, proud sponsor of KPTS, Public Television for Kansas.
The following program is brought to you by TZ Productions, celebrating KPTS's nearly 50 years of community support in South Central Kansas. Great starts here on KPTS.
Hatteberg's People is on the air. Coming up.
This is just about where Newt Rockney's body laid, just as near as I can recall. It's kind of sacred ground here.
He rushed to the scene of one of the most infamous plane crashes in Kansas history, and it changed his life forever. Learn the dramatic story of the man who witnessed the tragic death of a sports icon. Also,
basically I'm taking color and just designing with it like I would be painting with it, you know?
This man's life has been a kaleidoscope of color, from the hippie life of the 60s to the life of an expert flower artist. Galen Kalbach is a true Kansas original. Learn about the man behind the talent. Plus,
yeah, we have a lot of Amish people come through here, and I can very, very much appreciate them.
that's because he was raised Amish. But when Dale Lehman got a visit from Larry, he was living a modern life and running his own grain elevator at the age of 25. Learn why that was such a big deal. And
I'm making these toys and I'm adding a Bible tract, so hopefully there'll be some kids that come to know the Lord through this.
putting his faith into action and using his God-given talents to make toys for tots. Vern Gehring is an inspiration. I paid a visit to his workshop in Mound Ridge. Thanks for dialing us up, everybody. I'm Larry Hatteberg.
And I'm Susan Peters. A half hour of Hatteberg classics coming your way starting right now.
These stories are like old friends. Their lives radiate from the screen like prophets of the past. They were teachers, but not in a classroom. Instead, they taught about life to those around them who cared to listen, and I was their student.
An airplane crashes nose first into the Kansas Flint Hills. On board, one of the most famous football coaches of all time.
And watching it all in disbelief is a young Kansas man whose life would never be the same.
March 31st, 1939.
All we could see when we got close to it was a big pile of rubble with a tail section sticking up right out of the middle of it.
Easter Heathman will never forget that day nearly 75 years ago. For most, the crash is a paragraph in a history book. For Heathman, it's history he can still smell.
Well, it didn't catch a fire, but there was an odor of gasoline and hot oil. That plane hit in a kind of an upside down position. 5 bodies were thrown right through the floor of that plane.
The Rock was gone. The man whose name stood for the finest college football teams in the history of the gridiron sport had met his death in a commercial plane crash in the wheat fields of Kansas.
While the old newsreel said wheat fields, Easter Heathman knew different. It was prairie.
It was a sight I'd never seen before. It was a terrible sight. It was just horrible.
The crash site is a little over a mile from where Heathman now lives. Getting there isn't easy. There are gates to open and a stream to cross, but the memorial stands as a prairie sentry to a long ago tragedy.
I've got to meet people from all over the nation, good people. I haven't had a dud yet.
The Notre Dame campus showed a heavy heart to the nation. They keenly felt the loss of the bald Norwegian whose rough but kindly manner had fashioned winning football teams that were the toast of the land during his 13-year coaching reign.
Easter Heathman says he's probably met most of the living relatives of Rockney. At their request, he takes them to the crash site.
This is just about where Newt Rockney's body laid, just as near as I can recall. It's kind of sacred ground here.
On that fateful day in 1931, Newt Rockney's life became intertwined forever with Kansan Easter Heathman. Since that crash, Heathman has been the unofficial caretaker of the site in the Flint Hills, where 8 men lost their lives.
I remember that just like it happened yesterday.
Now, Mr. Easter passed away in 2008, less than 2 years after that interview. But if you want to learn more about his life, he has his own Wikipedia page. Really an amazing man who witnessed a moment in history that was very tragic, but he became sort of a historian. Anybody who came to his farm, he'd take them out to the crash site and tell them all about it.
Is that amazing? And now he's got his own Wikipedia page.
It's amazing.
Which is amazing in itself because he'll live on forever and ever.
Yes, he will.
I love it. Okay, from the Flint Hills to Amish country. The man in this next story decided to forge his own path.
Now, he owned and operated his own grain elevator at age 25 and was loving every minute of it.
I'm very happy where I'm at. Yeah, we have a lot of Amish people come through here, and I can very, very much appreciate them. Last wheat harvest, we had a guy with a team of horses and a box wagon come in and bring a load of wheat in, and that was very unusual, I would say.
A lot of things can go wrong at a grain elevator. Dale Lehman is a problem solver, and the problem is never easy.
No, it isn't. You always seem to do it a couple times before you get the right, all the parts in, I guess.
At 25 years old, Dale owns this elevator. A year and a half ago, he made that fateful decision.
Go in with the Lord on your side, and it's just been a wonderful experience, and it has worked out very, very well.
A recent story in the Hutchinson News said there were 800 grain elevators in Kansas. Of those 800, only 30 were owned by an individual. This may be the only one owned by a 25-year-old with an 8th grade education.
It doesn't seem to really affect me that much, and I guarantee you I'm not the brightest guy that ever walked, because I was just an average school kid, if that. The educated people, I deal on the phone a lot, and they're like, you know, which college did you go to? And then I tell them that I just have an 8th grade education, and they say they would have never noticed.
Tied up outside the elevator, the Amish lifestyle is of slower moments. The smell of damp leather hangs in the air. Old wood creaks. The reins worn. The horse, curious of an outsider the Amish call the English. And old wheels wait to turn just one more time. It is in this world and this town that Dale Lehman has chosen to make his life. Or perhaps it chose him.
You know, so much to be thankful for, and yeah, I've got a wonderful wife and son, and I'm happy where I'm at.
Dale Lehman, planting life's seeds one day at a time.
Praise the Lord for that.
Now that was 2002, but Dale did give up the elevator business after a few years, but he's still in the Yoder area. Now he's a major dealer of metal farm buildings across several Midwestern states. Really an amazing guy, and it's fun to go to the Yoder community and just kind of go behind the scenes a little bit.
Isn't it? I've been there to their like big sales and stuff. Oh, wonderful people.
Absolutely.
All right. Now to a true flower child in every sense of the term. Way up northwest Kansas, Larry met a hippie who is a florist and makes the most beautiful dried flower arrangements.
Yeah, you can't help but envy his talent and his easygoing approach to life. I made this trip to Leote in 2002.
Oh, it's a challenge. It never rains here.
On this little oasis in the middle of nowhere,
It is very unspoiled here.
Galen Kalbach celebrates nature.
It is like a sanctuary. Everybody loves this flower. I never have enough of this.
Galen is a grower, creator, and designer of incredible dried flower arrangements, but the process begins here in a garden full of flowers and plants.
Well, it's a special place in western Kansas. I mean, you know, western Kansas is like no other place on earth.
It is perhaps as unique as the man who works this land. Galen went to college in Berkeley and San Francisco State in the 60s.
I have no regrets, you know, from the 60s and the Haight-Ashbury and it was just a very fun and inspirational time.
Meanwhile, hundreds of drying flowers await Galen's artistic touch.
But isn't that lovely, the way, look at that. I mean, it's like orchid colored almost. Basically, I'm taking color and just designing with it like I would be painting with it, you know?
Like his flowers waiting their arrangement, Galen's life, too, is a kaleidoscope of colors. He studied almost every humanity, including architecture, biology, ballet, opera, art, and music.
And there's just no stress, you know? I mean, that's very nice to be in a place where there's no stress.
Except perhaps on this day when he's getting ready for a show. His flowers now colored and dried in what for most of us would be a complicated process.
It's doing pretty good.
For Galen, it's the magic of his art.
Well, it's unlike fine art. You have to create your own beauty where God creates the beauty in flowers. And so the beauty is already there, and so you're automatically working with beautiful things no matter what it is. In order to do something like this, inspiration is the hardest part.
So as long as he keeps watering, as long as the flowers grow, there will be another sunset for the man who keeps flower power alive for a new generation.
Now, you'll be happy to know that Galen is still making those beautiful dried flower arrangements. They're really amazing, but that's only part of it.
He is also growing and selling fresh flowers, as well as fruits and vegetables, which he peddles every week at a farmer's market near Colorado Springs.
Yeah, his work in those flowers is just incredible. And where he grows everything, it's out in the middle of nowhere. Unless you're looking for him, unless you have a map to his place, you'll never find it.
I'd love to go out there and just smell the scents of the flowers.
He says it's the driest part of the world
and
out there.
And he's successful at growing beautiful flowers. Good for him.
All right, the artist in this next story was also a historian, capturing photos of one of Kansas's most famous families.
That famous family was the Eisenhowers of Abilene.
My dad, Paul Jeffcoat, took this in 1926. He started as a photographer in 1921, and he and Milton were high school buddies.
There are few people in Abilene who know more about Dwight Eisenhower than Bill Jeffcoat. Jeffcoat's photo studio is intertwined with the Eisenhower family.
The editor of the paper brought Mrs. Eisenhower in. He wanted to nominate her as Kansas Lady of the Year. She got all dressed up and posed, which she didn't like to do, but she did on this occasion.
It was Bill's father who began the photo tradition by taking this famous photo of the Eisenhower family at home.
When Life magazine wanted to run this in a two-page thing, they weren't satisfied with the print. They wanted the negative, and we hated to let it go, but the Dad got the biggest check he ever received for a picture, which was $1,000, and he was on top of the world.
Jeffcoat loves to talk about Ike. He's taken hundreds of photos of the man and became an expert on Ike and his career.
Ike was just touring the boyhood home when he came out of the house, and he just stooped down, saw the flower, and picked it up and put it in his lapel, which was quite a touching thing, you know. There was one time I took his picture, and it's in the book where he's mad, and I just got a letter from his son, John. He said, "I'm glad you put that one in there because it gave us a touch of reality."
Like the photographs of Ike, Jeffcoat's studio is also frozen in time. While photography has been his love, Eisenhower has been his life.
He had just been elected president in '52 and came back to Abilene, and there was a big parade for him. He was really enjoying coming back. The Secret Service are here, and he was really enjoying coming back and seeing everybody. I still have chills when I watch an old TV film of him talking to huge crowds or talking to men in the service.
The old camera still records history around Abilene, and Bill Jeffcoat is part of it. He's produced a booklet of Eisenhower photos, many of them taken by him and his dad.
You had a sense of history. You were watching history in the making.
When Ike died, Jeffcoat felt he had lost a member of the family.
Ike kind of represented a father image to all of us.
It may be a dark room, but photographers like Bill Jeffcoat bring light to our lives through their pictures.
I'm glad I was here at the right time to take these pictures and just do what I did. I don't think I'd change a thing. I really don't.
Now, Bill passed away in 2007, but just like Ike, his legacy lives on in Abilene.
Not far from the Eisenhower Library and Museum sits the Jeffcoat Photography Studio Museum.
Now, that museum features images of not just the Eisenhowers, but photos of everyday life in Abilene over the past 100 years. Really an amazing guy. And when I went up to talk to him, I wanted to buy his big 8x10 view camera that he took all the Eisenhower. I did. I wanted to, but he's a smart guy. He wouldn't sell it.
You wanted
it's
to
part
display
of history.
it. It is part of history,
it's
right?
part of history.
All right, now to Mound Ridge, where Vern Gehring has a timeless talent for making wooden toys that kids of every generation find irresistible.
And Vern is a man of great faith and generosity.
It's quiet outside, it's quiet inside. Vern Gehring is a man who neither seeks the limelight nor hears others sing his praise. He is a friend of children he'll never meet. He makes them toys. A small sample of his work lines his immaculate Mound Ridge home he shares with his wife.
Yes, I enjoy woodworking. Nothing more important than taking a board and cutting it.
Vern is hearing impaired and reads lips to communicate. But this deeply religious man has never let his hearing be a problem.
I'm making these toys and I'm adding Bible tracts, so hopefully there'll be some kids that come to know the Lord through this.
He quietly does his work, hoping his superbly crafted wooden toys will make a difference in the life of a child.
My goal was to make 500 this year.
His 500 handcrafted wooden toys will be given to Toys for Tots and the Salvation Army for distribution at Christmas.
I think it's Western oil, it's a cooking oil. So if the kids chew on it, hopefully it won't be toxic.
Vern's about halfway to his goal this year, truck after truck. This giving man makes his faith visible in his shop as well as his church.
If it's work, it's not a hobby. And I want it to be a hobby.
One man making a difference, one toy at a time. All done in a quiet little home on the outskirts of Mound Ridge.
Now, 16 years after that story, Vern is still at it.
That's incredible.
He's an amazing guy.
He's 83 years old, still living with his lovely wife, Ruth, in Mound Ridge, and still crafting those beautiful wooden toys for needy kids at Christmas time. I love that he's still doing this.
Yeah, and these are the toys you would never give away after your child grows up because they are so beautifully handcrafted.
You just pass them down
Exactly.
from generation to generation.
Yeah.
Well, back in the old days, the drugstore soda fountain on Main Street was always the go-to hangout.
Yeah, every town had one. And the person behind the counter scooping the ice cream was always called, for some reason, a soda jerk.
Wonder why they call him a jerk.
No clue.
Well, most soda fountains have long since disappeared, but the one in Greensburg just kept going. And the man serving up the treats for decades was the affable Richard Huckreedy.
A druggist started this store in 1917, and so people know this location real well.
And they also know Richard Huckreedy real well. He's been dishing out ice cream and a smile for generations of Greensburg residents.
I just feel like I'm the same person, really.
Everyone in town knows him, and all appreciate his dedication.
I used to live up at Kinsley, and we'd come down on Sunday afternoon to go swimming, and we used to come in here. Dick was here at that time.
Anybody else have room for a milkshake?
It's nice to see that there's some things that don't change, you know. Everything, seems like everything changes, but this place doesn't.
I enjoy the people, and I especially enjoy their youngsters and the different generations of families.
Dick is the same today. He was the same yesterday. He'll be the same tomorrow. It's very comforting.
You're welcome. You are welcome.
Well, that was 2002. Richard and the Greensburg soda fountain continued strong for another 5 years. And then, we all know what happened. That infamous tornado wiped out nearly the entire town, including the drugstore.
Well, Greensburg did get a soda fountain back when the Kiowa County Commons was built. That's the building that contains the new public library and the museum. The soda fountain is right there when you walk in. How cool is that?
It's very cool, but you won't find, unfortunately, Richard working there. When the tornado damaged his home, he retired and moved to Pratt, where he is still alive and well, and is now into his late 80s. And my guess is he misses working behind that counter, because that was his life. He enjoyed every moment of it and meeting all the people.
That tornado in 2007 changed everything for a lot of people.
It sure did.
Well, another small town mainstay was Jack's service station. That was in Anthony.
Yeah, from the outside it looked like a place to buy gas, but it was actually a place to fill up on beer and conversation. And at the center of it was a lady named Mildred Elligan.
Fred, you want another beer?
A little bar on Anthony's Main Street next to the co-op.
You always have to be careful what you say so it don't come out wrong on TV.
A bar with history.
You want another one, Fred?
Mildred Elligan has been tending bar here for 57 years, and these aren't customers. These are friends.
Just like these guys sitting there acting silly now, those things. It's not always that silly, but they're having fun, they're enjoying themselves.
The place started as a tiny service station run by her future husband, Jack. He started it with his sister in 1934. Then Jack met Mildred at a dance. They were married in 43. She got her beer license in 45, and she's been here ever since.
But these others, some of them have been customers for years and years. I don't know who would be my oldest customer now. So many of them have gone.
Few can say they've outlasted many of their customers, but Mildred has. Most memories here are good, but once in a while she's seen some things that just tick her off.
A man come in with a youngster and get a beer, and the child asked for a pop. No, you don't need none. So you know what I did? I gave the child a pop.
But most times, this little bar has been like home.
Like I told you, when somebody comes in that I haven't seen for years and they act like they're tickled to death to see you, that's worth something. You bet. Thank you, Steve. But I've enjoyed it.
Well, Mildred and her charming little tavern are now just a happy memory for the people in Anthony. She lived another 4 years and passed away in 2006, and the tavern closed several years ago. Nothing stays forever.
No,
when you grow up in a small town, things change, unfortunately.
Change.
Yep.
But fortunately, she lives on in Hatteberg's people, and you have gone to these small towns and recorded all these things. So they
she
live
lives on in our memory, and it's a wonderful thing.
Well, now here's a story about a man who was a longtime fixture in Wichita. He was a well-known authority on one of the city's iconic companies.
Now, his name was Herb Ebendorf. His game was sharing the story of the Coleman Company and its history of innovation and those enduring products.
For years, the Coleman Company and its products have fascinated Herb Ebendorf.
The fascination began with W.C. Coleman himself, but there was something about the man. I wanted to know him better. I still think he is the most memorable character I have ever met. This is a pretty good example here.
Herb Ebendorf's fascination continues today at the Coleman Company Outlet Store and Museum here in Wichita.
I am not an authority on Coleman, the company, nor its products, but I know a lot about them. I don't know, we probably made several million of these, and I would say that there 50% of them are still either usable or can be made usable. I feel that if I can answer a question that's been on somebody's mind about a Coleman product, I feel that's time well spent. That's my reward.
Herb went to work for the Colemans in the early 40s. Now, at 95, yeah, that's right, 95. Herb volunteers in the Coleman Museum and is its encyclopedic spokesman.
There's really a story in just about everything we've got here.
If it has a Coleman name on it, he knows its history.
CQ quick light lamp around 1920s came in and never really stopped making them until as late as 1950. One handle and three bases here, and they lock together. This is what the average home had, maybe several of these, for light. We all have to have some purpose in mind. Without it, why, we're nothing. The lantern actually has become the symbol, expresses the symbol of the Coleman Company very well. And mine is simply to enjoy life and help other people as they go along.
From employee to longtime volunteer, no company had a more loyal promoter than Herb Ebendorf. Now, when Herb died in 2010 at the age of 99, it was big news because he was so well known and respected that for all he did for the Coleman Company. It was really amazing. He worked there for a long time, knew the founder of the Coleman Company, and knew the history of every product.
And the Coleman Company is part of Wichita's history, so we're grateful to him that he kept it alive.
Absolutely, did a wonderful job.
It's been another fun and exciting trip down memory lane with our tour guide, Larry Hatteberg. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have a question or comment, please drop us a line. The email address is hattebergspeople@kpts.org. And Larry reads every letter, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it was great to have you with us, everybody.
I'm Susan Peters.
And I'm Larry Hatteberg. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for another half hour of Hatteberg's People.
The preceding program was brought to you by TZ Productions, supporting KPTS and the communities it serves in South Central Kansas. Great starts here on KPTS.
Support also comes from viewers like you. Thank you.